Sai Ram students, today we are going to continue with this chapter, the Pandavas in Exile. So all of you be ready with your notebook, textbook and with a pen to write all the important points that we are going to learn today. Now students, before we continue with this chapter, let us quickly revise whatever we have done earlier. Yudhishthira was extremely worried when none of his brothers returned. He followed their footsteps and reached an enchanted pool, and was in great grief when he saw all his four brothers lying unconscious on the ground. He could realize all his four brothers might have tried to drink water from this enchanted pool. Yudhishthira cried out to heavens to take him too, as he felt there's no use to live alive if his brothers are not there with him. But so great was his own thirst that he went near to the pool and heard Yaksha's warning. Yaksha asked him 6 questions, to which Yudhishthira had replied in a wise manner. Yaksha was finally satisfied with Yudhishthira's answer, and he said as a reward he would bless him with one of his brother's life. For this, Yudhishthira asked him in a righteous and truthful manner to restore Nakula's life, as he does not want Madri's line to end. Now students, this is where we stopped earlier. Now let's continue with this chapter. When he had said this, a wonderful thing happened. In a moment there appeared before Yudhishthira a shining crowned person, whom he knew at once to be a god, and no human being at all. The divine personage was none other than Yama, the god of justice and death, Yudhishthira's heavenly father. Now here, personage means an important or famous person. Now students, here in this paragraph we understand Yaksha was so happy with Yudhishthira's answer that a wonderful thing happened. A shining crowned personality appeared in front of him, and Yudhishthira knew him as a god and not as a human being. The divine person was Yama, the god of justice and death, and also as Yudhishthira's heavenly father. Now let's move ahead. Yama embraced Yudhishthira and told him that he had come to help the Pandavas in their hours of need. He told him how pleased he was with Yudhishthira's noble conduct and wisdom, and he restored to life not just one of his brothers, but all of them. They arose and looked about them, dazed and unable to understand what had happened. Now here, embrace means hug or cuddle. Then, daze means unable to think or react properly. Now, students, here we understand Yama, who was Yudhishthira's heavenly father, he hugged Yudhishthira and said he had come to help Pandavas in their hour of need. He also said he was pleased with Yudhishthira's noble conduct and wisdom, for which he had blessed him by restoring all 4 brothers' life. When Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula and Sahadeva arose and looked at them, they were unable to think and react properly, and were not able to understand what had happened. Now let's read further. But Yudhishthira knelt at his heavenly father's feet, and his heart overflowed with gratitude. Yama blessed him and promised that he and his brothers would be protected by heaven in their hardship. No harm shall come to you, he said, neither will you be discovered while you live in hiding during the last and 13th year of exile. Now students, here the new words are gratitude. Gratitude means thanks. Then is exile. Exile means the state of being banned from one's native country. Now, here, when Yudhishthira thanked Yaksha for restoring his brother's life, Yama blessed him and promised that he and his brothers would be protected by heavens in their hardships. He also said, "You all will not be discovered by anyone during the last 13th year of exile, and no harm will come to you." Now let's move ahead. He advised Yudhishthira to go with his brothers and Draupadi to Matsya, where the good king Virata ruled, and to live there in disguise. There they would be saved from their enemies while they awaited the end of their long period of exile. The Yama left Yudhishthira, who returned to his forest dwelling with his brothers. Now, here the word dwelling means a house. Now students, here in this last paragraph, we understand Yama had asked Yudhishthira to go to Matsya, where the good king Virata ruled, and lived there in disguise, along with his brothers and Draupadi. And he also said they all will be saved from their enemies. And then finally Yama left Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira obeyed Yama and moved towards Matsya along with his brothers and Draupadi. Now students, let us start with the value points of this chapter. The Pandavas in Exile is an extract from Mahabharata. This chapter reveals Yudhishthira's character, his endurance, kind-heartedness and affection for his brothers and intellect. On the 13th year of their last adventure, the 5 brothers went for hunting a deer in the forest, wandering far from their dwelling place in the sun. The sun was hot overhead and they grew thirsty. The deer had vanished and now footsore and weary. They came at last to stop, knowing that their search was in vain. Their mouths were parched. They scanned the earth in all directions for some sign of water, but seeing none, they trudged wearily onwards until at last Yudhishthira was unable for his fatigue to go any further. He sat down under a tree to rest and sent Sahadeva in search of water for them. The youth went readily enough, but when he did not return for a long time, Yudhishthira grew concerned. He sent Nakula to see what had happened and also to find water. Nakula obeyed, but he too, like Sahadeva, did not return. And then, one by one, Yudhishthira sent his brothers after each other. But when they all went and none returned, he grew very anxious, not knowing what evil fate had overtaken them. At last, he decided to go and see for himself. He got up and, following in their footsteps, went down the track. He walked on for a distance until he came to a pool in the clearing in the forest. Its clear still water reflected the blue sky, while the pink and white and blue lotuses that grew on it raised their smiling heads to the sun. Yudhishthira saw another sight that made his blood freeze in his veins, for he saw all his 4 brothers either dead or unconscious. Their eyes were closed, and when he called to them, they would not answer. Sorrow filled his heart, and he wept bitterly for them. Though Yudhishthira did not knew it that this was what had happened. The first to come was Sahadeva. He was full of joy to see water, for he was very thirsty. He knelt upon the bank and bent down to drink the water. And voice broke through the silence of the grove, stopping him not to drink water, as this was an enchanted pool, and if he wants to drink water, then Sahadeva needs to answer the questions. Sahadeva thought it might be his imagination, so he ignored Yaksha's question and was struck down unconscious. Soon after this, Nakula arrived. He was in grief and surprise to see his brother. He too did not pay attention to Yaksha's question and was struck down unconscious. The same fate occurred to Bhima and Arjuna. Yudhishthira came at last to the pool in search of them. He found his four brothers lying as if they were dead. Then, feeling his thirst overpower him, he dragged himself to the edge of the water. But as he bent down, Yudhishthira heard Yaksha's warning voice. The voice introduced himself as Yaksha and started with this question. Yaksha asked 6 questions, to which Yudhishthira replied in a wise manner. Yaksha was well pleased with his answer, and finally he revealed that he is Yama, the god of justice and death. He was Yudhishthira's heavenly father. Yama was very happy with Yudhishthira's noble conduct and wisdom, and as a reward, he restored his all brothers and promised him that he and his brothers would be protected by heavens in their hardship. Yama also advised him to go with his brothers and Draupadi to Matsya, where the good king Virata ruled, and to live in disguise. There they would be safe from their enemies while they waited to end of their long period of exile. Now students, let's start with reference to the context. This enchanted pool belongs to me. No one may drink of its water until he has answered my questions. Now, the first question here is, who is the speaker of these lines? The speaker of these lines is Yaksha. Then the next question is, who is being addressed here? Sahadeva is being addressed here. Then the next one, what would be the consequence of drinking water without answering questions? The consequence of drinking water without answering questions would be getting unconscious. Then the next question is, who all drank without answering the questions? Now the answer here is, all the 4 brothers Nakula, Sahadeva, Bhima and Arjuna drank water without answering the questions. Now students, let's start with vocabulary, which is there in your textbook in page number 87. Now here the topic is idioms. An idiom is a phrase or expression whose meaning cannot be understood from the ordinary meaning of the words in it. Now, idioms exist in every language. They are words or phrases that aren't meant to be taken literally. For example, cannot judge a book by its cover. Now, how can we understand whether the book is good or bad? Now suppose the cover is very good, and when we read the content, we may not find it up to the standard. So we cannot judge a book by its cover, right? Now let me give you one more example. It is raining cats and dogs. Now does it mean that cats and dogs are raining? No, right? So we must not take the literal meaning. It does not mean that cats and dogs are raining, right? It means that it is raining heavily. Now students, let's start with this exercise which is there in page number 88. Match these idioms in column A with their meanings in column B. Now the first one is turn a deaf ear, means refuse to listen. Then the next one is go with the flow. Go with the flow means take things as they come. Then the next is zip your mouth, which means to stop talking. Then the next is once in a blue moon, means very rarely. Then the next is miss the boat. Miss the boat means miss the chance. Then the next is raining cats and dogs. Now here the raining cats and dogs means raining very heavily. Now let's move on towards the next activity. Complete the sentences by choosing the correct idioms from the table shown. Now here the table is already given, which we have already solved. You need to select the correct answer from this table and you need to fill in the blanks. Now the first one. We go to the mall dash we like going to small shops instead. Now here the correct answer is we go to the mall once in a blue moon, we like going to small shops instead. Then the next. They had to stop playing outside as it was dash. They had to stop playing outside as it was raining cats and dogs. Then the next one. The teacher dash to all our pleas to postpone the test. Now here the answer is the teacher turned a deaf ear to all our pleas to postpone the test. Now the next. My sister delayed putting in her application for the contest and now she has missed the boat. The answer is missed the boat. Now the next. We were making such a din that our teacher told us to dash. We were making such a din that our teacher told us to zip our lips. Then the next one is, since I can't change the situation, I have decided to dash. Here the correct answer is, since I can't change the situation, I have decided to go with the flow. Now students, with this we have completed the chapter. Now it's time for assignment. As you all know, you will be getting a link. You need to click on that link. You have to complete your assignment and then click on submit button. Alright, Sai Ram.